What happens when you mix the intense style and action of Bayonetta, some of the most incredible music I've ever seen in a video game, a huge roster of characters, and the creative vision to reinvent the scope of multiplayer games? Anarchy Reigns is PlatinumGames' 4th ever title, and it continues its streak of intense, stylish, grandeur, action-packed narratives and purely awesome gameplay. Here we discover the interesting vision and outcome of Anarchy Reigns whilst exploring its characters, its story, its 16-player brawler PvP, and what made it so underrated and overlooked. This is Anarchy Reigns. Before we go further into the video, if you're interested for more, please consider liking and subscribing or leaving a comment at the end. It helps the channel out massively and shows me that somebody has enjoyed my video. Anarchy Reigns has an interesting open world level structure that offers some fun hack and slash beat 'em up gameplay, spread across 4 different maps for each side of the story. Its story is split into 2 campaigns, White Side and Black Side, and they meet together at the end to form a Red Side. Each side is set parallel to each other and joins together at moments, telling the same story from the perspective of 2 opposing characters. Its multiplayer maps are the locations driven by the story. Each area has newer enemies and side missions alongside it. Each level corresponds to 1 area. Each level has 6 missions in total, 3 side missions and 3 story missions. Random environmental hazards can come into play at any moment during free roam or during these missions. These can range pretty heavily from drills blasting through the ground, missiles dropping from the sky, and many more. The open world format the game follows is pretty fun and throws constant waves of enemies towards you. You unlock side missions and main missions by collecting points and unlocking them after certain requirements. These points are collected by stacking combos on enemies in and outside of levels, completing challenges within levels and bonus points for other requirements. It's a simple construct that's easy to understand. You play more to unlock more. It doesn't take very long to unlock the next level, and I found myself grinding very little within the story. Each chapter took me roughly 40 minutes, it's very short. One thing that did surprise me was the wacky side missions present to keep the game feeling fresh. A lot of the side missions are of the same concept. Defeat an amount of enemies under time limit or defeat as many as you can under a time limit. It gets pretty repetitive with some variation to it, but there are some exceptions that stand out which make these side missions actually really fun besides its gameplay. Anarchy Reigns is much like Platinum's other games, like Vanquish and Bayonetta, in the sense of the gameplay has a sense of repetition, but it has a unique grandeur charm that makes it enjoyable and satisfying. Some side missions include escorting a bartender that was being harassed safely back to his bar, another one where you ride an attack helicopter and kill as many people as you can using its artillery. There's a football style minigame, there's a racing one, and a couple escort missions. These are just a few examples that break up the short story and offer some fun whilst also working towards the point requirements to unlock the next story level. A large portion of the story progression is done in the format of talking heads, which is one of the few negatives of the game, but during these moments you can at least appreciate each character's wacky personality. The story mode of Anarchy Reigns is pretty short, but interesting enough nonetheless. The game does get padded with extra missions to create the illusion of length, but when you boil it down to the story alone, it's extremely short, so let's get into it real quick. It is split into 2 campaigns, a White Side and a Black Side. They both follow a similar plot with different steps and play parallel to one another until the end. The White Side follows the perspective of new protagonist Leo Victorion, and the Black Side follows the perspective of a returning character from Mad World, Jack Kamen. A full playthrough does make you play the game twice, one on each side before linking up for the finale. Throughout certain times in the story, you do get the option to temporarily switch characters for certain battles when Jack or Leo team up with some characters, which offers a little extra variety but also little time to enjoy these characters on a deeper level until Chapter Select, where all characters become available. Anarchy Reigns involves many returning characters from Mad World, but it is however a standalone game and doesn't involve itself with Mad World with plot or story in any way. You can play it without prior knowledge. One thing to note for the entire story, Many characters appear in areas that aren't necessarily relevant to the overbearing plot, but are present figures within the story and world that expands the world building and lore. Many of these become playable in its multiplayer modes later on and can be used in New Game Plus for replaying the main story. They will be discussed deeper further in the video, but those irrelevant to the main plot will be overpassed in this segment of the video. The story is set in a post-apocalyptic future and begins in the city of Alhambra. 3 months ago, Maximilian Caxton, agent of the Bureau of Public Safety, was arrested for the murder of his own wife, and now he has staged a jailbreak. His former team, Strike 1 unit, with agents Leo, Sasha and Nikolai, is dispatched to Alhambra to find and kill Max. Leo splits off from the rest of the team in order to search for Max alone, with hopes of bringing in his former mentor alive, in denial and unconvinced that he could have ever killed his wife. Meanwhile, Jack Kamen of the Chasers Bounty Hunter Guild is mourning his daughter with a heart filled with revenge. He is approached by Max's daughter, Jeannie, who asks him to retrieve her father as he's led a life of alcohol and drug abuse to cope with the PTSD of his past. After some convincing, Jack reluctantly agrees to find Max as he harbours resentment toward Max for killing his adopted daughter Stella during a rescue mission not too long ago. On Jack's journey, he encounters other bounty hunters of the Chase Guild, Blacker Baron and Matilda, that helps him track down Max throughout the story, become playable characters during certain levels, and are present throughout the Black Side campaign. During this time, Leo follows a trail of cyborg corpses that resembles the same wounds to Max's dead wife, Ondine, and evidence points towards Max's cyborg body suffering injuries, and they deduct he went to Port Valenda to find new parts. Whereas in Port Valenda, Leo runs into Jack, who fights him in an attempt to draw Max out. After a boss fight between protagonists, Max reveals himself and Jack's plan worked. As brief as his appearance was, it gave Jack and Leo enough to track him to Hong Long, where they split up again to search. Leo runs into Max and discovers he is suffering from severe waves of amnesia due to substance abuse after the death of Stella. He fights his dual personalities and amnesia, but asks Leo to put an end to his suffering and just kill him. He proceeds to attack Leo, not recognizing who he is, and later joining the fight is Agent Sasha and leader Nikolai. After the badass fight with Max, Leo stops Nikolai's plan to execute him and demands a fair trial for his former mentor. During this argument, Max escapes and Leo forcefully restricts Nikolai from proceeding, but allows Sasha to advance. Whilst escaping the Strike 1 team, Max bumps into Jack, who has teamed up with the Baron. They also notice Max's rapidly deteriorating mental state due to his substance addictions.
We don't help people, we kill them. I'd ask you to say hi to Stella, but you're not going where she is.
The awesome fight of Max against Jack ends, and the Baron stops Jack from killing Max once and for all. Max also uses this chance to escape. The two follow Max to Barry Shur, where they encounter Sasha, who was also tracking Max. The Baron and Matilda split up from Jack and decides to distract Sasha while Jack tracks Max alone. Max discusses with Jack what truly happened to his daughter Stella. He admits it was one of his subordinates that killed Stella, not himself. He does, however, take full responsibility for her death and Jack's hatred towards him. Leo arrives to find Max held unconscious by Jack, and the two discuss whether Max should be held under trial or killed. Jack and Leo fight each other again until the Baron, Matilda and Sasha intervene to stop them. Suddenly approaching them is another squadron of drones deployed by Nikolai in his final cyborg suit. He orders all drones to execute everybody there and nearly succeeds. As Leo is on the brink of death and is saved by Jack. The two team up to take down Nikolai once and for all. This final boss fight between two protagonists makes a great action-packed ending to this short and enjoyable story.
But you won't, man. Eventually, you're always gonna meet your death. Yeah.
Overall, I really enjoyed the story and I feel it gets passed up quite often because people are told its focus is purely for multiplayer and unlocking those characters. But truth be told, I enjoy the tone surrounding Max especially, which is an anchor for the story. It revolves around mental suffering and battling amnesia that was brought on by substance abuse to cure his PTSD, and how it only worsened at the death of his wife Ondine. There's something about an 8 feet tall brolic cyborg dude breaking down his emotional and mental state which just pays off satisfyingly. One scene that stands out especially is my favourite scene where Max is begging Leo to just kill him.
You have to kill me, Leo. You have to kill me, Leo, please.
What the hell are you talking about? You're just tired, all right? It's okay. It gets better. I'm taking you back to Mill Valley. You got family there waiting for you.
Anarchy Reigns has a large roster of characters that drive from its story mode and are entirely playable in its multiplayer counterpart, which I only wish was still active because it's such a unique multiplayer experience. These characters can also be used in New Game Plus and Chapter Select, but more interestingly brings out the spark in the game's multiplayer. PlatinumGames tried to reinvent the vision of what multiplayer games could be. Unfortunately, they did this during the rise of Call of Duty and FIFA and was pushed into the shadows, not due to a lack of effort nor quality, simply due to the sheer popularity of the multiplayer genre at the time. It was their first dive into multiplayer games and was the main focus of its development, with the campaign being secondary to support the multiplayer. In all of Platinum's titles, you have the sense of adrenaline and action after playing for just a couple seconds, but in PvP, where everyone has the same capabilities, it gets chaotic and sometimes overwhelming fast, and Platinum struggled to regulate this being their first ever attempt at multiplayer, which is already a project that arises many issues before turning it into 12-player matches of mayhem. While Sega in Japan went ahead and released it on schedule anyway, PlatinumGames spoke separately regarding this and told fans worldwide that the Japanese copy is fully playable, fully localized, and they are 100% supporting and working on the game still. Sega of America shot themselves in the foot with this one, but within the nightmare of development that the multiplayer was, it had quite a few features and game modes playable. There are custom lobby options, ranked matches and player matches. The game types range from variations of team deathmatch to battle royales and new unique fun modes, but they all basically revolve around the same concepts taught throughout the campaign. It becomes a chaotic mess, and the random variables affecting the terrain give it that extra splash of intensity. The characters playable in multiplayer must be unlocked prior through completing missions in the campaign, which also acts as a tutorial to support the multiplayer. There are a couple elements of the gameplay that are unique to the multiplayer mode to add a little distinction from the campaign. For example, when on a kill streak, your level will increase, which raises the bar for your maximum health and special weapon gauge, and can go up to level 3, but when you die it reverts back to 0. After reaching level 3, your combos and attacks start to have special effects that spice up the fight a little. These special effects can set your opponent on fire, restricting their movements, temporarily freezing them, poisoning them, and finally stunning them with an electrifying attack, causing absolute mayhem. In my opinion, the best part of the multiplayer modes is being able to choose your favourite characters you met through the campaign. This is a very large and distinct character roster that all exude this grandeur badass vibe. They are all diverse and give off a distinct style, and remains more memorable than most other games. There are a few returning characters from Mad World that feature within the story and playable within its multiplayer modes. These are protagonist Jack Kamen, the Black Baron, Matilda, Big Bull, and Rin Rin. But the newly featured characters in the game are Leo Victorion, Sasha, Nikolai, Durga, Garuda, Zero, Oinky, Faerun, Aaron, Douglas, and Maximilian Caxton. And finally included in the special DLC is Bayonetta. Unfortunately, part of the art direction of these characters does include a lot of oozing sexuality, especially coming from the women, which just takes attention away from their importance in the story. It was fairly common throughout this generation of video games to over-sexualize women for no apparent purpose, and it still happens a lot now. The only exception I give is for Bayonetta, since it flows naturally with her personality and story. Her sexuality is part of who she is. But when it comes to other serious characters like Sasha or Matilda, it just steals any sense of intimidation and makes them appear less powerful and badass when their personalities and convictions are actually really cool. That's my largest downside with the game, to be honest, and it does have quite a few downsides. Anarchy Reigns is a very niche game that doesn't appeal to a wide audience, but its target audience does love it dearly like myself, and has got me invested enough to try out Mad World for the Wii. Anarchy Reigns released during a time of the internet where hating on something that wasn't perfect is cool, and contributed to its low sales and poor reviews. Sega's partnership with PlatinumGames was contracted for 4 titles, and Anarchy Reigns was the final game. Platinum was given almost complete creative control over these titles, which is pretty rare for publishers to allow, except for Anarchy Reigns, where Sega was much more involved, possibly due to it being the last contracted title, and wanted to play a hand in its development. Platinum loved what they did with Mad World and wanted to expand on that world, but Sega knew that those who knew and loved Mad World would have played it on the Nintendo Wii as it was an exclusive, but wanted this 4th and final game to be on HD platforms. Not many people owned all platforms, and this Mad World 2 would have been familiar to very few Xbox or PS3 users who owned a Wii, and would be confusing or off-putting for new fans. The compromise from Sega ultimately was to create a multiplayer game using Mad World as an inspiration to expand upon, whilst not being a direct enough sequel so Anarchy Reigns could still act as a standalone game. All of their titles failed to meet target sales, including Bayonetta, which was their most successful game of the time, and quite possibly even now. Anarchy Reigns' reception failed to hit standards, and PlatinumGames' relationship wasn't continued anymore. They went on to a game-by-game basis with publishers like Konami, Nintendo, Activision, and Square Enix, but never again Sega, with the exception of a co-developed mobile Bayonetta game. And this poor relationship is likely the reason we'll never get a Vanquish 2, even though we really need one. Even Bayonetta 2 and 3 was licensed by Nintendo and not Sega. It feels extremely unfair that all 4 of Platinum's games for Sega were actually incredible games that just didn't hit the right targets, especially when Sega of America is largely to blame for Anarchy Reigns' poor worldwide sales. After the game was released in Japan in July 2012, it took until the dead month of January in 2013 for the Europe and North America releases, but the weird thing is, CEO of PlatinumGames, Atsushi Inaba, revealed that this was entirely Sega's decision, and the copies of the Japanese and worldwide versions are 100% the same. Sega largely contributed to the downfall of Anarchy Reigns for no apparent reason. Anarchy Reigns isn't perfect by any means and has a lot of performance drops, a short story, a couple simplistic side missions, it can be janky, and it lacks a character progression system, but I think a lot of it is forgivable, and I enjoyed way more of the game than finding it boring, tedious, or just annoying. Overall, I enjoyed the switches between the melodramatic cutscenes for the story, switching to characters hyping up themselves for nothing but their own ego, and then switching over to the just silly side missions that are there to be fun, and not to take itself too seriously. It definitely switches quite often between serious and unserious tones. One level you go from a cutscene about a man's substance abuse to racing around a shipping port, and then fighting a giant squid. But what attracted me to this game in the first place, and what really tied the enjoyment of this whole title together, is the amazing soundtrack. I've been listening to tracks from this OST for years, not knowing what the game truly is, and the hip hop fusion in the music is just incredible. The music throughout this entire video has been from its OST, and is worth checking out. If you found this video interesting, you should subscribe to stay updated on more gaming retrospectives in the future, or consider checking out some of my other videos for more. Let me know your thoughts below on Anarchy Reigns in the comments, and I'll see you all next time.
Why your lovely assistant chooses to associate with a man who clearly lacks the ability to satisfy her is a mystery to me, I confess.